Grit is a small creative agency that specializes in helping outdoor industry brands of all sizes grow their business. At Grit, they help develop branding and create advertising materials to increase awareness and drive traffic. To learn more about Grit's services and portfolio, you can visit www.downtogrit.com or you can inquire by email at info@downtogrit.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hunt the Wild podcast. I'm your host, Adam Bowlds. Today I'm joined with Indiana resident Brandon Ludlow. He's about 50 minutes, I believe, south of Michigan, and he's a fellow Hoosier. So today we're going to dive into some deer hunting stuff. He's got some interesting stuff he's got going on around his neck of the woods. How you doing, Brandon?
Oh, pretty well. How about you?
I'm good. So, can you just introduce and tell everybody a little about yourself and kind of how you got started hunting and running around in the outdoors?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I currently live in Lake Village, Indiana. It's northwest part of the state. 27 years old. I've been taking a bow out since I was 9, and I first started when I was 6, just going pheasant hunting with my dad. Stepping on his heels, being in the way, usual stuff. But no, I took a liking to the bow hunting because my dad just threw me out, not by myself. I mean, he was about 80 yards away, usually at all times. But I consider it by myself,
Yeah.
So, but no, it took me a few years, but I finally, got one with the bow, and ever since then, it's been every year, gotta get out there with the bow. So
You got bit by the bug like the rest of us.
oh yeah, it doesn't take much.
So I know you do. I know you pretty much hunt just about everything. I was checking out your Go Wild and everything, and that's where we connected at. But I was really intrigued when I seen you post. I believe it was your 2018, 2020, 2019, 2020, or something like that deer. And that one in particular, I seen you within the back of your truck. I was like, oh my God. And then I think you said that you shot it from the ground. So I was super intrigued by that. So I decided to ask you to come on the show. Kind of tell the story, I guess, in depth, how you started bow hunting and maybe like your first hunt or something. Do you remember anything like that?
Yeah, I remember one of my first hunts as far as bow hunting. Being 9 years old in a tower stand, we had a lease in Attica, about 250 acres, and I just remember I think it was three arrows in my quiver, and I was shooting an old Barton, and thing was just about as tall as me at 9 years old. So, but I pair of, I believe it was button bucks, came running up 10 yards away, and I shot all 3 arrows because you know how button bucks are, especially early October. They don't know much, they don't know
Yeah.
what's going on. So um, that's about the first hunt I remember is that one. That one stands out the most as far as bow hunting.
Was
I,
that your first? That was your first kill then?
I actually didn't kill that day.
I
No,
just, yeah.
I missed, but that was my first. I believe that was my first shot with
Yeah.
in in the outdoors. And even though I missed, I was still smiling. And my dad was like, broadheads aren't cheap. You shouldn't shoot more than one, And I still haven't learned my lesson on that. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. It definitely, even when you miss it, it can be heartbreaking sometimes. And we'll get into that a little bit later.
oh
But
yeah, oh yeah,
it definitely, it just, man, for me, it gets my blood just, there's nothing like it. It's indescribable for anybody that's never been in that kind of moment. And,
yeah.
button bucks now probably don't make you go nuts like that. But when you're a kid, it's like you're getting ready to shoot a 200-inch
Oh yeah,
buck.
absolutely.
You just get the shakes and get that tunnel vision, and it seems like there's nothing else going on in the world besides you and that deer sitting there.
Oh yeah.
So, do you remember what kind of bow that you first started hunting with? Is it something you snagged out of a garage sale, or your cousin stole out of your cousin's basement, or
It
was it
was a
something your dad got you?
Yeah, it was a hand me down from my stepdad. It was
Yeah.
his first bow. So it was kind of a cool deal that I got.
Yeah.
When I was 11, that's when I eventually took my first. Not eventually. I mean, it only took a few years, but that's when I
Yeah.
took my first deer. But it was a dart, and I don't remember what model offhand. Like I said, it was a tall bow.
Yeah, was it too I was gonna say you're probably, I don't know how tall you are, but I'm a short guy, so somebody gave me an adult bow like that at that age, I can imagine that thing was as tall as would be as tall as me.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty. It was. I thought it was bigger than what I needed, but it did the deal. It worked out. But
Did you guys turn down the poundage real low?
oh yeah, it was set right at 35. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I mean, so I remember the first time I went bow hunting, I went with a guy that I knew who had not shot a deer, but he'd been a couple times, and he's like, "My buddy's got this bow you can use, so we'll swing by there like 2 hours before we go, and you just take this bow out and hunt with it." And now I'm like, "What was I thinking? Like the draw
yeah,
length wasn't adjusted. I
right.
didn't have a release. Like, oh my god, it was a." I
No,
look back, it's funny, but man, that was so stupid.
I've seen a couple experiences like that where friends try to get other friends. Just come on, just take this one. I got one. I got one. And it's a stepping stone though.
Yeah, it
But
works that way with bow fishing or something maybe, but
yeah,
not with
no,
trying to shoot a deer with.
no, you don't. It's not. It's hang on to this. Type of deal. Maybe not shoot anything. uh,
So, how long did it take you to kind of upgrade? Just after a couple years, you think?
yeah, it was. I think I had that bow for 2 seasons, and then I got a Parker. Uh,
Parker, yeah.
so I think that one went up to 50 pounds, which I didn't shoot that. I was right around 40, 42, somewhere in there. But yeah, I took several deer with that Parker. I don't know what happened. Moves and stuff. Moves
Yeah.
and stuff. It ended up somewhere else. I wish I still had that for my son, but that was a good little bow.
What uh what are you rocking now?
I shoot a bear approach. So
God, man, you don't know how good that makes me feel to hear another guy shoots a bear.
yeah, yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're good bows. I was impatient, and the local guy got his shipment in. He had a 60 pound. He's like, "Oh, I'll get a 70 pound in 2 weeks," and I'm like, "No, I gotta have one right now."
Yeah.
So I shot that. Oh, I fell in love with it. Yeah, that's my first bear bow, and yeah, I'll probably stick with bear. I don't. I've shot Matthews. I've shot, like I said, Parker. I've never shot Hoyt. I've never, none of the never shot
Yeah.
Tech, but no, that the bear is just, I don't know, something about it. It's
Yeah.
light and very smooth.
A bear's super affordable too when you
Yeah.
can kind of compare it to everything else. I shot first bow I ever had was a Hoyt, and I can't remember the model of it, but I bought it used. And then the first one that I actually bought new was a bear, and ever since then, I think I bought two or three bows, and they've all been bears. And I've killed deer with them, so I don't really see any reason to maybe pay three times the price. I think a
Right.
lot of it just comes to practice, just kind of
Right.
whatever you get used to. You could kill a bow from probably the 1970s. You could kill with a bow, as long as it had good strings and stuff on it if you practice enough. So it's not so
Absolutely.
much about the name, but it is nice to hear somebody else shoots a bear. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
I don't, I dabble in with the THP stuff. So yeah, I was like, oh, they shoot bear. Nice. But
what kind of broadheads you rocking?
I jump around a little bit. I'm not really consistent.
Yeah.
I like Rage. I like Muzzy. I think I'm gonna stray away from the Muzzy this year though, because I had a couple mishaps last year.
Oh gosh, let's hear it.
Um, so I had a hunt in public property. That's what I mainly hunt is public. But I had a buck come in. It was Halloween, and I shot him in the shoulder blade. The what I believe is the not as thick part of the shoulder. Where it starts to fade off.
Yeah.
And that's right. I dialed. That's where I watched him run off. Pinpointed that spot. And I was like, man. And where I found the arrow, I had about 7 inches of entrance, of blood. So I was like, oh, maybe I got lucky. Maybe I got lucky. But when that broadhead was actually missing one of the blades, popped out. I
Mhm.
don't know how, but missing one of the blades, and that's happened in the past too with the Muzzy. But
Really?
so I was kind of disheartened there, and I talking to some people about it, and they said, "Oh yeah, you need expandables. You need expandables." And I was like, "Yeah, I've killed them with muzzies though. It's so I don't know. It's kind of got in my head about it, um,
Yeah.
but that one kind of messed me up a little bit. That Halloween's my favorite time of year to hunt. It's it's my favorite day to hunt, I should say. But I mean, it was a night. It was probably a 125, 130 deer. Nothing
Yeah.
nothing beat the charts, but it does not matter to me. But it was a good buck that came in, did it perfect. Played messed around with some trees for about 10 minutes in front of me, and finally gave me a shot. And I thought my nerves were gone enough to where I was gonna do the get seal a deal, but didn't work out. And
I've been shooting muzzies for years now, and I'll tell you, I've missed my targets and stuff. Sighting in my bow before and shot through uh, plywood privacy fences with those things and not damaged them. I've never had any issues with them falling apart or with them breaking, but I do have issues with blood trails with them. Do you ever experience anything like that, like a light blood trail?
yeah, yeah, just like very
Yeah,
every 4 feet you get the drop, 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 something like
yeah,
that. Yeah, I did notice that with the say that a couple mishaps. I had another one that I ended up shooting a little low, and
yeah,
I that one I rushed the shot. That's all there was to that one. But the same deal. I only tracked blood for about 80 yards and lost it. So
yeah.
he went on a private, and I got permission through an Instagram message, and went on there, and as soon as he crossed that fence, the blood stopped. I don't know what the heck happened, but did circles around. They let me look for 3 days and never did find that deer. So I want to believe that he lived. And the thing is with public up here is they keep a public kill sheet out on the counter. So I looked, and it was about 10 days after that. Uh, well, no, it had to be longer than that. So about 2 weeks because it was gun season. Um, a 10 pointer was taken out of that same area. So
Mm.
I'm hoping it was him, and that I just hope it was him
It
because
hurts sometimes
yeah,
not knowing, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just caught right above the belly line, and they're tough, especially during that time of year during the rut. So
Now, do you, being in Indiana, I hunt some public too, and on state ground, they have the little green cards here that you fill
yeah,
out. Do you have those up where you're at?
yeah, the 1 day permit cards. Yep.
Yep. So anytime I kill a deer on public, we have these little like drop boxes you drop them in whenever you leave.
Right.
I love to take a little bit of blood and smear it on that card whenever I'm successful. I don't know who picks those cards up, and I don't know who reads them and everything, but sometimes I'll stop at like a lot or something, and I'll see that card box. You can open it up and kind of get some intel on
Right.
who's
Oh
been
yeah.
killing stuff, and I always look through there and see if anyone's like doing the same thing as me. But that's kind of like my signature is a little bit of blood on the card, so you guys know that I'm out here getting it done.
Yeah. Yeah. Little little confidence for yourself, and a little not showing off, but in
Yeah,
a sense.
it's almost they say like serial killers and stuff. They leave their signature on everything. That's kind of like my signature as a bow hunter. So when it comes to like bow hunting gear specifics, can you kind of talk about some of the gear that you use? When you go out in the field. I know you hunt both public and private, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about that in a minute. But I just kind of want to know what you're taking with you in the woods, or any kind of gadgets or stuff that you feel like you'd kind of be almost screwed without, like obviously your bow, but anything else kind of come to mind that you're like, I gotta have that. If you don't have it, you're turning around home and getting it.
Well, obviously release. That's number one. I've turned around, gone home. But no, my rangefinder is definitely something that I have come to find that I need in the last couple of years. Um,
Yeah.
I always have a handsaw because you never know. You just never know. Climber or ground. I always have that. Um, I got to have snacks and my water, and I usually pack light. So I mean, just that my backpack, that's about all I carry, really. Flashlight, of course. But
Yeah, I'm a big water guy too. I don't really like to go in the woods without having water. That's
yeah,
one of my things that I feel almost like lost if I don't have water.
Yeah, that's same here. Yep, 100%.
So, do you have any pieces of gear specifically that you feel like maybe you've recently got, or maybe you started using a couple years ago, or maybe you've been using them your whole bow hunting career that have sort of improved your success?
Um, I guess the rangefinder, because it's a longer story, but I just recently started using a rangefinder like 3 years ago. Before that, I was just I was confident, and
Yeah,
I didn't feel like I needed one, and then started misjudging and shooting under or shooting over, and so I honestly just rangefinder is the biggest takeaway from the my what gear I need to have. So um but no, I mean in certain situations it's I just you got to assess it as far as do I need to take my climber or not. That's another big thing when it comes to assessing my gear. um but as far as like I said, as far as my backpack, it's usually pretty light, and I I wear face paint, so I
hmm
know a lot of people don't like it, but I don't care. It's something that I feel that I'm not obstructing, especially with a bow, because I've had it, where
yeah,
it flips your face mask out when you shoot, and so bug spray. I
yeah. Are you a
spray that at
thermosol?
all times because November I've even had mosquitoes. So
Are you a thermosol guy?
I never have been. No,
Yeah.
no, just bug spray, and I cover it up with scent killer. I'm not a I don't really believe in the scent too much. I definitely there's a factor there, but I don't.
Yeah, it's I'm a big believer in that. I've talked about it on here before. I'm a big believer in that thermocell.
Yeah.
It does emit a little bit of an odor, and I'll sometimes carry just some doe pee, and I'll kind of give it a little mist on that mat just to kind
Okay.
of to break it up. But um, it's interesting that you talk about scent control because I've had a lot of people on here lately, including myself, that have kind of fallen off the bandwagon of the scent control. It used to be like put all your stuff in a tote,
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. And it seems like through the years that's kind of trickling down. I don't know if that got real big in the industry and people kind of bought into it. And now they're starting to realize or what. But I'll tell you what, I killed more deer last year not using scent control than I ever have any other year using it.
Yeah.
So I'm pitching that stuff, man. I
Yeah.
don't.
I mean, like I said, there's times, especially early season, where I'll give it a quick spray down, but by the time I get in there, I'm sweated up, and that your odor overrides that water spray anyway. So it's just unless you're like you said, unless you're doing the totes and the ozone that the juries use that ozone, you know,
Yeah, ozonics.
yeah, that
Yeah.
little closet thing they got. But unless you're doing all that, I don't think it. And even then, it's like you spend so much money on that stuff. It's like I don't
I'm
know. I
I'm looking at this deer for anybody not on YouTube. I'm looking at this deer behind Brandon as he's telling me he's not real big into scent control, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need that stuff anymore. It's hanging up on his wall with a couple turkey fans and some other bucks back there.
especially with the hunting the ground. Your scent's not. Tree stand. I feel like it's just
Yeah.
I could see it lofting down, but on the ground, I don't know. I think being hidden is a little more important. Not moving when the time matters. I think that's the biggest thing, really.
So, I hunt Indiana and Kentucky. I'm down in Evansville, not too far from Kentucky. I'm right on the river. Um, So I start hunting September 4th over there for bow. As you can imagine, it's really hot, and then
Yeah.
October 1st here. Are you one of those guys that's getting out October 1st, or are you kind of holding off for a couple weeks?
I tell myself every year I'm going to hold off until the third week of bow, but I'm always out there because, and especially once I get out there, I realize I'm like, well, I can at least do some scouting here. I can at least cover some ground and try to figure out it because I'm already going to get sweated up. So, and
Yeah.
the bugs are going to be there, so I might as well move around a little bit, and that's where the whole the ground thing came in. I guess was early, early archery. trying to escape the bugs and try to, move around, because the deer aren't going to be moving around,
Yeah.
so why stay still if they're going to stay still? So,
Yeah, I talked to a lot of guys about early archery season. Around here it's September 4th for Kentucky and October 1st Indiana. I don't know about Illinois, but everybody always tells me um, I just kind of hold off till the third week of October. And sometimes I wonder if that's just due to kind of the heat and all that stuff, if they just don't want to fight it or they just don't feel confident. But man, by the time October 1st or September 4th rolls around, I'm itching so bad to get out. I
oh,
can't. There's no way I could wait an extra 3 weeks. It's like somebody shot me in the chest. I'm just itching and like chomping at the bit to get out there. So,
oh, absolutely,
um, you
absolutely.
ever you ever have success early on those first couple weeks?
Yeah, I have actually. I think it was last year. I shot a doe the third day of season, so
Hmm,
that was nice. But
yeah,
um, I don't think. Yeah, actually, yeah, I have shot one on opening day before. It's about 5 years ago, and that was on the ground. In some natural prairie grass that was about 5 foot tall. So, but
oh,
yeah,
cool.
I've had a few occasions early. So,
Yeah, it's definitely gets the scratches the itch, gets some meat in the freezer,
oh,
definitely.
yeah, absolutely, you gotta do it.
So I brought you on here because I wanted to dive into. I know everybody's talking turkeys right now, and this may lead into turkeys because I see you got some on your wall and probably has a lot of the same kind of strategy going on. But I wanted to talk a lot about hunting deer from the ground. I know it's real big in the industry right now to kind of get rid of all the hunky clunky junk,
Hmm.
go light. Everybody went to climbers and went to hang on stands. And then everybody kind of wanting to transition into saddles now because it's really light,
Right.
which I'm getting ready to start flirting around with myself because I am absolutely tired of carrying a Summit a mile and a half, 2 miles back in the woods with
No,
camera
I hear
gear
you.
and all this other stuff.
No, I hear you there.
Um, but yeah, let's talk about hunting deer from the ground because man, all you need is a bow and a backpack. I don't see you needing a stand or a saddle or ropes. What kind of gave you the idea or wanted you made you want to hunt deer from the ground?
I guess just being certain spots that I was finding on public really was a deciding factor, as far as not enough openings, and then not any trees for um, tree stands, and that started probably 6 7 years ago. Um, just walking into an area with my climber and being, well, that was a waste. So I guess it just progressed into overcoming that obstacle. Okay, let's try it from the ground. Let's see what happens. So the biggest thing, as far that I found, is trying to find as many trails, deer trails, as possible, and putting myself right in the middle. I mean, I've set up the deer I killed in 2018. I was 3 yards off the trail. I mean,
Hmm.
it just I had to be right there, and I found a tree, to lean against with enough brush in front of me that ended up working out. So I guess sitting close, and talk to guys that hunt out a tree stand, or anytime, you got to be at least 10 yards off that trail. They're gonna smell you. It's, well, hey, I'll take my chance. That's the way I look at it. Yeah, you got to take chances when you're on the ground. That's the biggest thing. You got to break out of your safe barrier, so to speak. What you think. What do you think the deer is gonna think? You know, Sometimes you got to overcome that and try to think outside the box and just go with it. And it's kind of paid off. So it's definitely something that if you haven't done before, it's relaxing too. I mean, you ain't got to worry about falling asleep, because I when I get out in the woods, I'm so relaxed, and I fell asleep in my summit climber before, and
That's easy to do.
it is easy to do. And I want to think it's safe, because I feel like I'm not gonna, but I know it's not. I know it's, and I'm not the best on wearing harnesses, so that's a deciding factor too, is heights and not carrying in a harness.
Yeah.
So the lighter you pack, the more you can essentially do, as far as if you need to move, or I guess less scent, if you want to think about it that way too. So
Yeah, so I have some public ground, some state public ground near me. It used to be a strip mine at one time, so they mined it for coal. And then they're required to plant trees. Well, everybody knows that trees take a long time to grow.
Oh yeah.
So these trees are 20, 30 feet high. They're not very high at all. So um, you can't get climbers in them. So I started flirting around last year with um, taking in a mobile setup, which I got tired of seeing the good spot to hunt, but having to put my climber somewhere like 30, 40 yards away in a tree that they just happened not to cut down when they mined it. So I
Yeah.
started doing that. And um, still, sometimes you get in these situations where you can't get a hang on in that stand. So I kind of wanted to start playing with saddles and ground hunting because, as you know, if you're 20 yards off when you're bow hunting, it can really affect you. And it bit me two or three times last year on this 10 that I was trying to kill. So I'm like, I got to do something different this year. I got to be more mobile. So when it comes to ground hunting, is that something you do solo or do you ever bring anybody along with you?
I think the only time I've ever hunted on the ground was somebody else's, my wife. And
Yeah.
when she just started getting into it 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, I've sat on the ground with her many times, and even if it's 60, 50, 60 yards away, you know, she she has no problem. She finally killed her first deer last year. It took 4 seasons, or 4 or 5 seasons, but she ended up killing her first deer, and she was on the ground, and the deer walked up to her about 9 yards away.
Wow.
So
That's an
it was
experience.
it was a button buck, which I don't discriminate for first deer.
Yeah.
You know, Heck, I've taken button bucks in the last 5 years. It's good meat. I don't care what
Yeah.
anybody says. That's the best meat there is. But
Yeah. No
you,
buck
you,
shaming from me. You won't ever hear me say that.
you just got to know your population, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and plus public. Somebody else is gonna take it. I as far as mature bucks though, I've learned to definitely try to hold off. Hopefully they'll make it, even though it's public ground.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they do.
one thing about big deer on public ground is they don't get that way being stupid.
Exactly. Exactly.
They it's almost shocking how much deer can pattern humans. There's that 10 that I was trying to kill this year right up the road from work. So I was going into work super early so I could, drive there after work, get in the last couple of hours. And I could only hunt it during the week because there's nobody there during the week. The
Yep.
deer that 10 was only showing up during the week. On the weekend I went there 4 or 5 weekends in a row. I didn't see him.
Wow.
So it
That's
seems
crazy.
like I think I was going on like two. He was showing up in that area I was hunting. He was showing up on like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, right about the same time. And like I said, I couldn't. I had him at like 5 yards one night, like a minute or two after last shooting light, but otherwise he was just off a little bit. I couldn't get in the right tree with the setup I had, and
Mhm.
but yeah, it's shocking how much those deer just like know on the weekend. Guys are in the parking lot. Guys are running around back in the woods,
Yeah.
carrying climbers, clink, clink, clink,
Yeah.
flashlights everywhere. Didn't see a single deer on the weekend. Um, when it comes to like hunting on the ground, are you doing any like what they call ground pounding? Like, you're kind of more or less stalking them, or are you pretty much stationary the whole time?
Primarily stationary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't unless I get in early, so to speak, like noon, and
Yeah.
sit in one spot for a couple hours. I'm like, oh, well, maybe over here might be better. But as far as seeing one and actually stalking it, I I can't recall the last time I've done that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I usually just try to stay put. And like I said, once I get on a certain trail or couple trails, a Y is definitely the best spot to be, because the more trails the merrier.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's mainly stationary. So
Are you a makeshift kind of blind guy?
yeah, absolutely. I used to. I used to take the big bulky blinds out everywhere I went, and that's what I kind of got my wife into. It was, with the blinds, and just ditched that a couple years ago. And yeah, I just roll with whatever whatever natural. I think that's the best way to go. I mean, I know you get away with the bulky blinds in turkey season, and you can kill deer with blinds. I get that, but no, I just like to, if I got to get in a half hour early and find a bunch of dead sticks around me. Deadfalls are the best. If they end up, if a trail ends up going right by a deadfall, that's the best spot to be. And
Yeah.
that's any type of game. So
I see a lot of people just go out in the woods and pop up a blind, and I'll be honest with you, I've done it probably more than I should, but if you go out in the woods and you pop up a blind and a deer walks by it, it's generally going to spook it more than it's going to do any good unless it's been soaking for a while. I
yeah,
feel like, at
yeah,
least around my area, if it's not been sitting there for a couple weeks and they walk by and there's just some brand new blind popped up, it's almost
right.
like it's almost like you got a flashing light on top of your head. So I was wondering if you went in and like to pop those blinds up, or if you were just going in and kind of making your own blind. Now, are you just kind of cutting up sticks and making a blind, or are you just kind of tucking back and whatever?
Yeah, I'd cut off. I like to cut off leafy, green leafy branches is
Yeah.
what I like to primarily put in front of me. Like to have a nice backdrop, big tree, deadfall, or if I have to use a small tree with a lot of brush behind me, if I have to pile up the brush or whatever, whatever it has to come down to. Breaking up my back seems to be the biggest part as far as when it comes to the draw. Um, but yeah, the leafy green, I can't remember what trees they are, but they have the little red berries on them, and they're
Mm.
they're not they don't grow very tall, and they're kind of sporadic. They grow out real sporadic, and they're really thick. I wish I could remember what tree they are. I
Not a
can't.
holly tree, right?
They might be. I don't know.
Are the leaves kind of spiny?
Kind of ovally, and yeah,
Yeah.
it almost
Yes.
looks like a dogwood leaf. I don't know if you know what a dogwood
Yeah.
leaf looks like. It
Sounds like
almost
a
looks like those, but
yeah.
I can't remember what they're called. Sometimes the base. I mean, because like I said, there's several um, sporadic branches or bases, whatever you want to call it. But I could find it. But yeah, I don't remember what they're called. But it seems like I always run into those, and they make good cover because they're nice and light, but they have a lot of leaves on them.
Now, do you worry about going in, making a bunch of noise when you're cutting those sticks up and you're kind of brushing in your blind?
Yeah, I never really. I try to be as quiet as possible at all times.
Yeah.
If I have to leave a little earlier to get in. But no, I mean, there's been times where I've tried to make it natural, try to make it sound like a buck. There's been times, not often, but
Yeah.
um, no, I just, if I have to saw slowly, that's what I'll do. I mean, I take pruners too. If they're
Yeah.
small enough to use pruners, that's definitely the way to go. Um,
Pruners are uh, a lifesaver when it comes to trying to be quiet in the woods,
oh
it seems
yeah,
like.
absolutely. And that got that trick from turkey on. That's where most of the ground stuff, as far as like knowing what to do. Because I mean, um, turkey hunting will definitely give you a ground, give you that ground, solid, give you that solid confidence. So that's where that transferred over from, you know. But yeah, my saw is definitely number one because if I don't have a good backdrop, I got to find a bigger branch to put behind me or whatever. That's what I'll do.
So when you're hunting and you go in, let's pretend you go in and you make a little makeshift blind. Um, are you just sitting like your ass right on the ground? Or are you sitting on a bucket or something? Because I could imagine that
It gets uncomfortable.
it could be both uncomfortable and hard to shoot with you sitting with your back against a tree and your legs out. Um, I could see that maybe being hard, or maybe having limbs in front of you. Do you see a deer and then like pop up to your knees, or kind of run us through how that works?
Yeah, so popping up on my knees is how it usually works out. And if the deer sees me before then it wasn't meant to be that day. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that I usually start off, just sitting relaxed, But then once like you get that feeling that
Mhm.
prime time, prime
Yeah.
time's coming up. So
Yeah.
I'll get on my knees and then I'll kind of move around a little bit, probably more than I should, but I feel that I'm tucked away enough that I can get away with it as long as I move slowly. But yeah, I lucked out with my 2020 buck because I didn't have much cover. I had a fence post behind me with blonde grass. I leave my lane mowed um, all year round around our field. It's about 15-acre field, so I leave enough to, for the truck to get around. Well, I left the fence line about 2-3 foot, not mowed, and it stayed about 3-4 foot high, but blonde, thick grass, foxtail, things of that nature. So I had my decoy out, and luckily he walked right behind that thing, and I had enough time to draw back. I can't believe it worked out. I cannot. I just because with the other buck in 2018 that I shot off the ground, I was hunting a swamp, so I could hear him coming from I don't even know how many yards away. I mean, I could hear him coming. So I had time to get up, and my whole right side was blocked. So I guess we get back up, and I could tell you that whole story.
Yeah, let's hear the
So
whole story.
so the 20, I believe it was 20. It had to be 2018. Yeah, the 2018 deer is the Sunday before I shot him on Thursday. So that Sunday before it was youth duck season, and me and my cousin were in a flooded cornfield, and it was about 9 o'clock. I look on the ditch bank, and I'm like, "There's a buck over there." Huh? Didn't really think anything of it. We're trying to get some wood ducks, but
Yeah.
he got closer, got closer, got closer. My cousin's like, "That's a nice buck," I'm like, "Yeah, it is." And so I had never hunted that area before, and I went in blind that Monday, to kind of checked it out. Not much, I don't think I seen a deer that day. And then the Tuesday, this deer came up from my right, and I wasn't very far into to the swamp. I was more towards they have a dove field up front, and it slowly gradually turns into the swamp. So I kind of hunted up towards the field, and I could kind of hear a deer coming, through the water, because by that time the water fades off once you get close to the field. And I kind of slid down. I was up on like a little grassy hill on a ditch bank, and I kind of slid down to look, and he seen me. It was too late. He seen me, took off. And this time I was using a crossbow. This time of year, just be
Yeah.
I kind of dabbled in that,
I won't hate on you. I shot my buck this year with a crossbow. So that
Yeah,
one above my head, I shot on the ground with a crossbow. And I'll tell you what, it's a hell of a rush.
yeah. No, I don't discriminate at all. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to do what you got to do, and it ended up work. I don't think I could have killed that deer with my compound
Yeah.
as much as I wanted to. But so I went back that Wednesday, and I called my butt off, grunting, and this is October 16th. What am I doing? Just trying anything to get this deer to come back, and no luck that day either. So I went back that Thursday and got there real early. Well, as early as getting off work would allow. Um, so found a good tree further up towards the swamp, towards the high water. It was like the only tree that sat up above the water. So it was a little 5-inch cherry tree, not very big, but I had plenty of brush in front of me, and like I said, my right side was totally blocked. So I kind of cleared just one shooting hole, you know, about yay big. One shooting hole. He had to be right there. I guess that's where the ground. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be right there or nothing. So he ended up coming. Like I said, it was about a 3-yard shot. Well, a 4-pointer came in first. He came by first, and I was like, well, he's not coming. And it wasn't a minute after that I heard more thrashing through the water. So I got back up on my knees and ready to go, and it ended up being that 10-pointer that I'd seen. So I didn't even make him stop. He was so close. I just put the pin on him, and that was it. So I will tell you, it is very hard to track a deer in water.
I bet.
He ended up dying in the water.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I mean, he never got out. He never got to dry land. So I
Wow.
had to call in some some backup. My cousins came out and helped me. Thank God. And my one cousin's like, I smell guts. You gut shot this deer. I'm like, there's no way. I was like, he was right there. You know, well, he was actually kind of quartered to me, and I didn't even realize it.
Uh,
So it exited through the guts, and he's like, I smell it. I smell it. It wasn't 30 seconds later. He found that deer. So up in
wow.
the swamp, I was shining light through it. I just told him, I was like, I know he ran that way, because as soon as I shot, I ran out of the brush to watch because there's many lanes mowed through there. I don't know why they had it set up like that, but I jumped out to see where he went, and he cut down the first lane, and so that's about all I had to go off of. And yeah, he ended up being floating in the water right off the trail, which there wasn't much of a trail; it was all water. But so it made the drag back easy though,
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
because like I said, they flooded all for duck hunting, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned about him, being quartered towards you and hitting some of the guts. The one I shot this year, I had the same thing going on, and when I gutted him, it was the strangest thing. And most people probably won't believe me, but I gutted him, and there was like, when you start pulling everything out, there was two pieces of corn inside the chest cavity. So I had nicked the belly just enough to like let that come out of its stomach, but there wasn't anything else in there. No green, no. It was the weirdest thing I've
huh,
ever seen in my life. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't, when you get that quartering toward shot and you shoot it with a crossbow with 185-pound pullback, it doesn't take much to get that arrow that far back.
right,
Uh,
absolutely.
so kind of when you're setting up on the ground to hunt, um, are you going in and just looking for the same kind of stuff you would be if you're hunting from a stand, or does that vary a little bit? I know maybe terrain. I could see the terrain being something that might differ. Obviously, you're looking for food and sign, I would think, but I could see maybe the terrain, the way you got to set up on the ground. Maybe you got to be higher up or lower because you're not elevated. Kind of talk a little bit about that.
Definitely. Yeah, so I'd rather be on top of a ridge if I'm
Yeah.
if I'm going to be hunting the ground, and I mean even a stand top of the ridge, you can you have more eyesight. But if I don't have that option, like I said, I try to find the thickest stuff closest to a deer trail. Whereas if I'm hunting a tree stand, I want a good opening, to where I have several shots. So when I hunt the ground, like I said, I one or two shots, and that's what you gotta roll with, because you want to be so brushed into where you know you can get away with pulling your bow back or lifting your crossbow or whatever, getting your gun up and being able to get the safety off or whatever it might be. So yeah, I don't really care about openings too much when I'm on the ground. So being close to a bedding area, I find myself being close to bedding, because they like to be in the thick stuff. So I'll be just outside of a bedding area most of the time. Find myself in that situation. Um, yeah, I when I take my climber in, I like to find a deer trail, obviously, and I'll set up 10, 15 yards off of it in hopes that that's the one that they're going to use, which most time does not happen. So, but if I should have done it this past season, but definitely this season it's going to happen. Where I should have moved to the ground because I only had one tree to use my climber in that
Hmm.
I felt comfortable in. Felt comfortable with as far as cover and being. There's deer trails all over where I had my climber set up. So I should have went in and hunted from the ground. Which, if this buck made it this year, it's gonna happen. I set my sights on, and which it usually happens. I'll set my sights on one deer if I can, which it doesn't always work out that way, as we know. But
Yeah, we'll talk about that one deer situation
yeah,
here in a little bit too, because I want to get your thoughts on that.
yeah,
Um, uh, I guess when you're hunting from the ground early season, when they're kind of on those, early season feeding patterns where you can pretty
right,
much pattern them to the minute. Maybe the
Right.
first couple weeks of October, definitely in September in Kentucky. Are you setting up right on that field? Are you like 20 yards back? Or are you trying to get closer to the bedding?
Closer to bedding, I would say, yeah. Which
Yeah.
the spot that I mean, it usually works out to where I am close to a food source anyway. Um, but yeah, usually bedding because especially early season, they don't move till late. You want to be as close as you can to where their first movement's going to be. They might not make it to the field till after shooting time, which I've seen several times.
Yeah.
So, because I like hunting field edges, on the ground, definitely. But early season, it seems like they don't make it out there in time.
Yeah.
So, being in the thick stuff, can has its up and downs. As long as they come out before shooting time, you usually pretty good. At least you can see the deer. That's still a successful hunt in my eyes. Seeing animals, being out there, is a success anyway. But seeing deer is my goal.
It's
Yeah.
amazing how miserable you can get in early season, how hot and sweaty, and you're like
Yeah.
cussing it. And then like the last 10 minutes, you see like a ton of deer come by, or you see them like 50, 60 yards off, and it just like seems to just take that all away.
Definitely a
It
morale
just kind of
booster.
seems to make it worth it, even if you don't get a shot.
Oh,
It's weird.
absolutely, absolutely. I love it when a young button buck or fawn comes running and just they act so squirrely and jump around, especially when they have another one with them.
Yeah.
Just little things like that.
They're like puppy dogs playing
Oh yeah,
sometimes.
oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
just it's the little things, especially early season, like you said, when it can be slower.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess when it comes to calling bucks from the ground, is there anything different that you would do versus if you were hunting from an elevated stand? I know I've seen guys kick leaves and rake brush and stuff. Kind of, it's probably more of a rut thing, I would imagine. But is there anything different you do being on the ground or?
Not a whole lot really. I usually only use the grunt call that has a doe bleat built in. Um,
Mhm.
because that I'll usually just doe bleat most of the time, or throw a couple grunts, and that's usually ground or tree stand is just the doe bleats and the grunts. I've tried rattling in the past. I think it scares more deer than anything, and not so much scares, but I don't think it's like, oh, I need to go check that out. I don't really believe that too much.
Yeah.
Just my opinion with my experiences. So I think doe bleeding is very effective, especially around Halloween and the weeks following. So
I've never had a whole lot of success rattling either. I've played around with it. I think a lot of it is has to do with where you hunt and kind of
mhm,
how many bucks are around if you're on private or public.
right,
If you and 17 other guys on this, 20-acre lot are all rattling at the same time, there's a lot of variables that could kind of play into that. But I'm kind of with you. I'm almost, I usually have a rattle bag in my backpack, but
mhm,
I'd have to say in the past couple of years, I don't think I've pulled it out and used it. I
yeah,
feel like it
yeah. Well,
almost
every
scares them off.
maybe 5% of the season I'll rattle, but I just to get me fired up if it's if all day sit or something get a little slow. I'll just
Yeah,
try to make a bunch of racket, just try to fire one up, but I
yeah.
I have never had one answer to a rattle
It's
ever.
almost like you do it out of boredom. It's almost like you make a bunch of noise, wake the woods up, and then it's like you just got there. You're waiting for it to settle down again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about camouflage. I know we talked a little bit before this, and you're on TikTok a little bit, so you may have seen kind of the Sitka guys versus the First Light guys versus the whatever guys. So I know that's like a big topic in the industry right now.
Absolutely.
But I am curious on what kind of camo you wear, um, and how important it is when you're hunting from the ground versus when you're hunting from a stand. Do you think it differs on what kind of camo you should wear as far as being skyline and stuff like that, or is it? all about movement and being brushed in.
I believe that it's all, like you said, the movement being brushed in. I wear Nomad. Um, that's what I wear. This will be the fourth season. It's extremely comfortable. And they have a few color variations. Um, but yeah, I had. It's funny. I have a Sika jacket that a guy down the road he had posted online that $150, and this is originally $320 jacket. And I told my wife, I was like, I have got to get on this, and that's the only piece of Sika I've ever worn, put on, and I still get crap for one of my friends about it, but it's comfortable. It works, I don't wear it's mainly a waterfowl, that kind of camo breakup, but yeah, like I said, Nomad is extremely comfortable. It's breathable. If I have to wear, long johns under it, it's usually about all I need, until it comes to late November.
Yeah. It
Then
gets real cold.
the bibs come out, but
Yeah.
those are my Walmart faded bibs that you know it doesn't. By that time I don't think the deer really care. I think they
No.
care a lot more. It seems like, in my opinion, they care a lot more early season. You know, it seems like by late season they're just whatever. I got to get to point A to point B.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know,
tired of being shot at, chasing their
yeah,
girlfriends.
they're
Um,
gonna be there or not.
some guy in a orange, jumpsuit, they're not going to care much about November in late November.
I tell
Yeah.
you what, I've never used a trail camera on public ground before until last season. And the pictures I've seen of guys walking by my trail camera is hilarious. And
Yeah.
it didn't start until gun season. I had
Yeah.
nothing. I had nothing. And the spot I ended up finding, which I guess I should take the gears back a little bit here. So I usually never go to the same spot every year. I try to find a new spot. As far as so you got like the one piece of public has 14 different areas.
Yeah. Like different lots.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's what I
then
got.
I don't know if TNC is down by you, or if you're familiar with TNC at all. But
Uh-uh.
they're all about the bringing back the natural prairies, and they actually
Okay.
have I don't know how many they're up to now, but they introduced 80 head of buffalo in 2016 down by me.
Huh.
Well, it's all like, if you could think of like the old Western habitat.
Are those game to shoot or no?
No, not yet. That would be very cool, but no, that grassy stuff is kind of like, that's definitely where a lot of the ground hunting started, because there is zero trees on TNC property. They just don't do the trees. I mean, I shouldn't say zero. There's one area that has a bunch of pine trees that they keep cattle in, but other than that, I've never deer hunted or seen anybody deer hunt that, but might be something to try. But yeah, every year I try to go to something different. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that this year because it's what I seen where I was at last year, but I was only 250 yards max from my truck. I mean,
Yeah.
and parking your truck it could be a big factor. I found where I was parking originally on the south side of the road. I'm like, why am I not seeing deer when I park on the south side? And ended up being there's a deer trail that runs right through the parking lot,
Yep.
and they were bedding about 50 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
Because I parked there one day and I see them kick up and go. I'm like, what the heck? And then I realized there's a deer trail coming right through that parking lot. So I parked on the north side, and it's set off about 80 yards from the other one on the north side. Very fortunate, because they're not very courteous parking lots, but got it right there. It's very helpful. So, but yeah, any deer that comes out into the opening where the spot was I was hunting last year, they could see the road. They could probably pick out my truck if they wanted to, but yeah, the road noise was something that you have to get used to, other
I'm
than other hunters.
I'm glad you touched on that. There was a spot that I was trying to kill a couple of velvet bucks on this year in Kentucky,
Mm.
and they were bedded. Same kind of thing going on. You park, and they're like you park down lower a little bit, and they're bedded up on top of this ridge. And the only other place to park is like a mile and a half around, and the only way to kind of like get up to them is to climb up that ridge and get close. So it's
Mhm.
like they had it figured out. They were looking down at the road all the time. They were looking down at the parking lot all the time. They know some guy drives around, walks all the way through the woods,
Yeah.
Um, those deer, man, on public,
It's
it
a whole different it's a whole different breed from private. That is for
nobody thinks about parking your vehicle when it comes to deer hunting a whole lot, but it does matter on public ground.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've hunted public all my life, and it's just I learned something new all the time. I mean, it's nonstop. Just little tactics that will pay off, and that seemed to be the deciding factor in seeing deer because I'd see a couple doe here, little button buck or whatever here, and I don't know why I seen so many button bucks last year, but I seen a lot. But anyway, I once I moved that car to a different lot, the bucks started appearing. It was like a light switch. I couldn't believe it. But
There you go, guys. If you're having any issues with your deer not showing up and you're hunting public or something, maybe private even, think about where you're parking your vehicle because them suckers, man, they know.
yeah,
They know.
absolutely. Especially when
So,
you got a big white 4-wheel drive. So
oh yeah, I see
it
that thing
sticks
coming
out.
like a big white flag.
Yeah.
So I like to anybody that hunts a whole lot of public ground, I always like to ask them if they have any kind of wild stories from spending time on public ground as far as it comes to with like other hunters maybe you got shot or some guy tried to run you off of his area in public ground, anything crazy like that ever happened to you?
I've been pretty fortunate to where I haven't had too many, drastic run-ins, but there's a there's this time that I didn't even have my license yet. My grandpa dropped me off in this area, and it was about 100 yards in off the road. Um, but the stand belonged to a guy at local archery shop who ran it, and he didn't really full on say you can hunt it, but he like hinted toward told us I got to stand in here, kind of like
Yeah,
here
if you can find it you can hunt it.
kind of like he didn't full on say, but yeah, he beat around the bush. So my grandpa's like, yeah, he said you can hunt it, So I was like, my grandpa was off the wall, so I was like, yeah, I'll go in there. Well, he ended up coming to that stand, and he had probably 15 stands in that area because that's what he told us. He's like, I got one for every wind direction, rain,
That's
whatever.
called, yeah, in public, some public land guys, they like to saturate an area
Yeah,
so you'll stay out of it.
yeah, exactly. Land, landlock it or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. But yeah, he came up and he was hot. He was not happy. But
Uh-oh.
he ended up letting me stay. He gave me some words. I told him who I was. I think he was just so mad that he didn't realize who I was. And I full on told him like I'll get down. He's like, no, just stay there. I'll go hunt over here. Like I felt I just that it ruined the hunt.
Yeah.
So I went back in and apologized to him, and he acted like oh no, you're fine. Go ahead and hunt whenever you want. And then that's when he gave me I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Just in the moment on public, sometimes it's like, what do people think? I mean, I have witnessed more, you know, silly things, so to speak, than I
Yeah.
have had happen to me, I guess. Um, Now, waterfowl, that's a whole different story. But deer hunting, it's usually pretty mellow.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't I always make sure on any I guess any really saturated public ground. You know how you kind of hunt a public area and it's like there's a lot of people, and then you hunt a public area and there's like some people. Any kind of public ground that I bow hunt early season, that's I know is going to be super saturated during gun season. Like I'm talking like 15 guys for like a 5-10 acre lot. I always make sure to pull my stands out, that last few days because I know they're going to all be dragging their big double man stands in there the weekend prior, and I've actually had quite a few stands and stuff stolen over the
Oh,
years.
I
So
believe it. I
I
believe it.
try not to put anything too expensive out there. But
Yeah.
that's the main issues I've had with public. I've had a couple of weird, freaky run-ins with people, but nothing super dangerous, I would say.
No, yeah, nothing, you hear a lot of people, talk about how, oh, I'll never hunt public, I'll never, which whatever, do what you want. But I have had way more good experiences on public than bad. And um, this past season, I guess I had this truck parked because like I said, I could see the road, I could see my truck. This truck parked, and we were getting 10 days before um, gun season, and I'm like, oh, they're getting ready for gun season. They're gonna put up a stand. Well, what it ended up being, which I found out in shed hunting, they were making all kinds of racket, and I was seeing deer steady that day. About every 20 minutes, I was seeing a deer, this direction, that direction, whatever. So they walk in, and I mean, they're talking. They're probably 200, 300 yards away. Couldn't really get, at any given time, and just making all kinds of racket. It sounded like they were beating trees with sledgehammers. Well, that's actually what they were doing. They were building a ground line with plywood and 2x4s, and they were nailing branches to it. And I found it in when I was shed hunting. So this TNC I talk about, it's if they do have trees, which, like I said, there's very slim chance that there's a tree on TNC. If they do have trees, you're not allowed to keep
Cut them. Yeah.
You're not allowed to keep your trees overnight. You have to pull everything out. So that's where the climber and the ground hunting comes in. So if I'm not gonna, because definitely hunting out of a ladder stand can be effective, but if I got to hunt the ground, I'm going to hunt the ground. So, but yeah, that I could not believe that I just ruined my hunt. I wanted to throw dopey on the truck or something to get back.
Yeah.
I'm going to get out of here before, I did wait for them just to ask them what they were doing, but about 20 minutes, and it got dark, and I said, all right, whatever. But I never did see that truck come back. So I don't know. I don't know if they hunted that spot or not. I mean, I was out of there. I ended up shooting my buck with a muzzleloader last year. It was 5 days after opening day of firearm here. So
I had a weird experience like that one time too. I was hunting about 25 foot up in a hang on stand, and it was I got in there way early. You know how it is. It doesn't get dark till kind of later, early on in the season or whatever. And I hear this racket coming in from this field that I had walked down, and I was probably 600 or 700 yards from the truck. So I hear this racket, and all of a sudden I see these two guys dragging this double man stand, and they're dragging it right across where all these deer are coming out this way every night and going to the field, and they're coming. These guys are dragging it in this way. And I whistled at them, and they looked. I whistled at them. They looked. They finally saw me up in the tree, and I'm like, hey, like, I'm hunting. Like, you mind getting out of here or something? So they kind of like waved me off. I was some young, 19, 20-year-old kid, and they were old boomers, I'll say. And they went ahead and hung that ladder stand, and I watched them the whole time. And they left about, I'd say, an hour and a half prior to last light. And sure enough, I ended up shooting a doe that evening. Wow. I don't know if those deer were waiting on them to kind of get out of there. And, they made all that noise. And then maybe the deer thought it was safe to come out because they were gone. Maybe it played in my favor or what. But, yeah, I wish I would have seen those guys when I dragged that deer out, because I would have been like, haha, look, suckers, got one anyway.
All right, one more story.
We love stories here.
I had one coming back, and it seems like it always happens right before gun season. I don't know why. And nothing against gun hunters, but it seems like, I don't know. It's like you can put your stands up September 1st.
Yeah,
just do it then.
But they don't care. They don't care about us bow hunters for some reason.
No, I was probably I was still in high school. It was after school. I was probably 17. Trying to get one of my buddy's younger brothers into hunting, and I got him set up on a good deer trail that a couple ditches crossed, pinch point, and I just kind of drifted off, and I was going to hunt a field, and I get a call from him that says, "There's a guy out here in a truck, in public land. You can't drive your own vehicle on, you can't drive past that non-authorized sign. So yeah, I'm like, a truck. I'm like, it's not white, is it? Making sure it's not DNR. He said, no, it's a gray, whatever it was, gray charcoal Chevy. So I haul butt back there. The kid's only 13 years old. I'm like, I don't want him getting in harm's way or something like that. So I get back there, and I've had run-ins with this guy before, and they weren't bad run-ins. I've I've seen them, and so I get up there and I'm like, what's going on? After about a 500-yard run, I just sprinted, and he was like, oh, hanging my stand up, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, you're not supposed to be driving back here, right? I'm like, just making, like, that, right? He goes, I can do it as I please. I'm just like, okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
So whatever, kind of, I took a picture of his license plate, just to show headquarters, like, come on, man, just to give him in case this happens again deal. So, which, nothing ever happens out of that, I believe, but whatever. So ends up being, I was like, okay, well, let's move over here. I'm going to go around the corner. We got about an hour and a half left. Let's see what happens. So I start walking down on the other side of the ditch, and this 8-pointer jumps out of the ditch. And I ended up missing, but I took a shot with my bow and shot right underneath him with I'll never shoot Walmart arrows again because of this reason. The knock stuck my string, and I believe that's why it shot low. I mean, I shoot my bow all the time, man. I feel like, I should have had that deer, and that just set it up. We're done.
Buy good arrows. Everybody buy good arrows.
Yeah, I shoot Black Eagle now, so
yeah.
But
that's crazy, man.
Yeah, the truck on public that one kind of rubbed me wrong, definitely. Especially when you're trying to get a kid into it, and the truck 50 yards away from him. It's, come on, man.
I can really turn somebody off,
Yeah.
Hunting public like that and having stuff like that happen. It's like, as a seasoned hunter, you kind of understand that 90% of the time stuff kind of goes wrong. But as you're a new hunter, you kind of go in with the expectation that things should kind of go right. And when you see stuff like that, it's kind of like, maybe this isn't for me, So
yeah, the young hunters see the pictures. That's all they see is the positives, and it's kind of, you got to kind of get it. May not see anything. It's going to be hot, So
it's the way it goes.
I definitely love getting kids into the outdoors. Because I enjoyed when I was brought up at that age. So whatever age it may be. This year I'm going to take I believe he's 11-year-old turkey hunting. He's never been hunting before, just fishing. So
yeah,
that's going to be fun. But I back it up a little bit. My buddy's other brother that I had taken, I took him out. He wanted to shoot a deer. He got a new gun for Christmas or whatever it was the year before. Never shot the gun before this, and I didn't find that out till that morning. I was like, you never shot this gun? What are you talking about? And this is hunting at TNC where it's all grass.
Mm-hmm.
We got up against 15 yards off the private line, which is, they make it very clear out there. So we got up against the private line, against the deadfall, and kids never shot a deer. Never, like I said, never shot the gun. 20 minutes after shooting time, this doe walks out, and about 25 yards, I said, all right, put it behind the shoulder. He had all the time in the world. She didn't know we were there. Dropped her. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And he never hunted after that again.
Really?
He got his fill, and he never hunted it. Yeah. I could not believe it.
Wow.
Yeah. It just, he was all about it, and shot a deer. Said, okay, I'm done. So that was kind of, I was like, well, it is what it is. You can't really push it,
Yeah, that throws you off a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he rode that high for a few days because I was at their house all the time, and I couldn't believe that one. I was like, really? But usually they stick with it,
Yeah, especially when you're successful. 20 minutes into your first hunt. I mean, it's almost like you just get swallowed by the bug instead of just bit by the bug.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
That can spoil you.
That was an odd one, but it is what it is.
That's right. So let's kind of talk about, here in Indiana, what the ideal terrain looks like for you when you're hunting whitetails from the ground. Kind of paint the picture. Let's pretend you're going in. Um, let's just say Halloween, favorite day to hunt.
Yeah.
Let's say you're going in Halloween on a piece of public. Let's say I'm going to pick you up and I'm going to drop you off at this piece of public at my house. You've never been there. I'm going to drop you off at noon. You're going to hunt till dark. What are you kind of looking for?
So I'm gonna look for um, thick stuff, what I'm familiar with. Thick stuff that might lead to a little opening, and okay, the openings usually tell you where the deer are going to be crossing. Not that the thick stuff won't, but um, that thick stuff, man, I don't know. I love getting in there, and it's a pain getting through it. But once you find that spot, and it's you know, just being in a swampy bed, it's going to be bedding, just swampy, low brush. Um, maybe having a ditch line somewhere close by, a ditch, creek, something. Uh, that's definitely a must have, because I do believe that they sit in the ditches, or not in the ditches, but they sit on those ditch banks around here a lot. Um, we have so many ditches that it's just one of the cover spots they have. So Halloween, yeah, it's definitely going to be in the hardwoods. I mean, somewhat by a food source. I mean, I don't have to be right by it, but um, yeah, it's got to be by the bedding area. That's number one thing when I'm hunting. I'd rather be closer to the bedding area than the food, the food source.
Now,
Most
when
cases.
when you're hunting from the ground, one thing that I really like hunting from a stand is that I can see a lot.
Yeah,
I can see that being an issue hunting from the ground.
it definitely switches from eyes to ears on the ground.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so
You
yeah,
you kind of got to. Do you try to set up where you can look down a trail, or you? Because I imagine if you're set up to where you can look down a trail, you could see pretty far. But if you're sitting off the side of a trail, looking across a trail, it may be, thick on that other side, so you might not be able to see any further
right.
than
And that's
across that
that's where it
trail.
comes. That's where it comes down to, like, okay, if you only have to have one shot, might have to be what it is.
Yeah,
And I would like to have more than one shot, realistically. But if I have one shot and I think this is going to be the spot, then that's what it is. So, um, like I said, that TNC, they did get a spot recently that has, where I hunted last year, has a lot of trees, and the one big opening in that area is where I had my climber, and I should have been in the thick stuff. So like I said, I got to be in that, not in the bedding area. You obviously don't want to be in the bedding area, but and sometimes it's hard to tell. That's why shed hunting comes in handy. You find out where they're bedding all year. I believe that's definitely, get out there after season. Before season, I don't know if it helps, but after season, I think you can find out a lot more about the deer. You know,
yeah.
I just what I've found out in the last couple of years, but um, I know a lot of guys like hunting the food sources, but I don't feel that it's necessary. You know,
Now, if you have a big piece of public ground, let's say your lot is big. Let's say it's one. Uh, let's say it's 2 by 2 square miles.
yeah,
All the way around. Let's say it's pretty big.
yeah.
Um, what are you kind of doing to narrow down your spots when you've got an area that's so big that you obviously can't cover it all, by scouting, I guess. If it's a new area, you haven't been in there in the spring shed hunting, maybe you got just a couple of days, you don't have a lot of time to burn scouting. Are you just kind of going in and setting up on the hottest sign you can find?
Exactly. Yes, trying to
Yeah.
find scrapes, rubs. Yeah, rubs are my favorite. Actually, I go wild. I made a post bunch of rubs that I found after shed hunting, and I was like, wow, just amazed, how many trees are tore up back here, But yeah, if I'm going in, it's trying to find the most sign. Um, like I said, the heaviest used trails. Um, I I just like to be on the heaviest used trails.
Now,
It's just
now
like I said, I'll
what
sit 3 yards off of it. I don't care.
what sign is most important to you? If you can only pick a scrape, a rub, um, or like deer shit on the ground, which one would you pick?
Probably a rub, and it's probably not the right choice, but it's what I feel most. That's what gets my confidence boost is a rub.
Yeah.
Um, I and just because I seen a lot of little bucks making rubs last year, um, is why I would say that. Um,
Okay.
and just knowing that they're there, and, scrapes, I feel like, okay, how old, usually you can tell, if it's fresh or not, and that's the same with rubs. Usually tell how fresh or not, but if it looks like it's within the last couple of weeks, I feel confident. That deer might be,
Yeah.
yeah, that deer might come back. That deer's, just in every hunt. If you don't kill, it's a nice scout. It's you got to learn something. You got to look at it. Okay, I didn't see any deer. Well, what did you take away? You got to take away something. Maybe, okay, moving over here 20 yards. Just something. You got to pick up on something, and that's usually I don't, when I ground hunt, I won't sit in the same spot twice. It seems like I won't. I never find that spot again. Or whatever. I know that general area, but okay, I'm gonna sit over here this time, or and eventually it works out to where you funnel it down. But yeah, it seems to me that rubs pay off. I think. I'm
I um
convinced.
I I feel like a lot of people, and I used to be this way, and I probably still do it, but a lot of people probably don't learn a whole lot every time they go out. I know a lot of people set up a stand. They kind of get caught in the motion of grab everything out of the back of the truck, walk there as fast as you can, set up
Mhm.
in the stand. And it just kind of like becomes almost like a chore than it is really like a hunt, just walk to the stand, get up in the stand, hope you see something.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I think it's important that you do look around, you do look for hot sign, you do kind of learn something every hunt. And then for me, like last year, my biggest thing was learn something and then adjust, learn something and
Yep.
adjust. And it
Exactly.
seems like every time I would do that, even though I didn't kill that 10, that's what got me closer. I should have killed him had time been, 2 minutes a little sooner. But had I been hunting the way that I was years before, where I would just go to the same stand for 17 times in a row, um, there's no way I would have seen that buck, of that caliber on public land. It just
Right.
they'll peg you,
Right.
as you get caught in the motions. They get used to that.
Right. You gotta keep it changing. Keep You gotta keep it interesting. That's for sure. Yeah.
So when it comes time, where you get in that kind of slow motion tunnel vision and the deer's in front of you and you got to make the shot count. Is there anything that you do to help you relax or focus so you can kind of make a good shot? I know I'm a guy that talks myself through. I draw my bow and then I say like, put your kisser button here, like put your finger
Mhm.
on the release, put your finger over and kind of squeeze the release in that crease and wait.
Step by step.
I
Yeah.
know some people just draw back and like shoot, but is there anything like you say your prayers or anything before it all goes down or what?
I do have a prayer every time before right when I get out of the truck. That's just,
Yeah.
but no, it seems like if I have a chance to see the deer several minutes before, leading up to the shot, I definitely gets my nerves calmed. If the deer pops out and
Yeah.
that I don't have enough time to calm down, it seems that,
Mhm.
the shot's going to be rushed, or, I'm not going to take my time as far as, setting everything right. But, yeah, as long as I could see the deer coming from a little ways, which I got fortunate with uh, my my big deer in 2020. He came from several not pro he came from two properties away, but he was darn near a mile away when he first came out. Um,
Wow.
so that helped. And the off chance that he came to my call that day, I I don't, because I seen him the day before, and I was in, okay, so this where the ground thing or the blind thing comes in. I was in the blind and I hunted this blind. It's the only spot I have in the back here. It's one big oak tree, and we have a shooting hill, a big shooting hill, and it's just where the excess dirt came from when they built the house. They took it all the way to the back, so we could tuck a blind in there, nice, perfect. And so he came out that day before. It was actually Veterans Day. I had the whole day off, and I hunted that whole day in that blind. And it wasn't until 10 minutes before shooting time he come out with 5 does. Well, the 5 does kind of walked through the neighbor's pasture feeding, and they hopped the fence, went on the other neighbors. Well, he stayed right in that pasture, and he just was looking my direction. And I hadn't made any call, any noise, nothing. He just kind of looked towards my direction. He would look off to the left, to the right, and turn around, went the other way. Didn't even follow his does. I was like, what in the world just happened? So I guess I'm gonna get into the story a little bit for him. So that next day, that Thursday, that's when I set up further down towards to where he came out, and my neighbor's fence is probably, I think, 230 yards from where I had the blind set up. So I probably moved down about 120 yards. And I took my doe decoy out because I'm like, okay, well, he's after the does. It's what was it, November? I don't even remember. November 11th, I believe it was. So anyway, I had the doe decoy set up out. I ranged it 41 yards away. When he came out around that corner. Like I said, I seen him from a ways away. I didn't even have my binoculars. I had my rangefinder. I was just kind of looking at him through that. It helped a little bit, but I was like, all I could tell from that far it was a buck. I was like, okay, let's see what we can do. One thing I learned as far as doe bleeding is the long drawn out doe bleeds are not the way to go. And
Really?
I learned that from Alex Rutledge. I don't know if you're familiar with him. So he was big on I think it was North American whitetail. Yeah. So it like Stamp Hots and those guys,
Yeah.
when they had that show several years ago. Well, I ran into him at the Deer Waterfowl Expo in
Hmm.
Indy. I don't know if you ever been to that one.
Never been to a show.
No.
Soon though.
So we went down there, and he was promoting his call line, turkey calls, um, and he was a good time. We stayed at his section for about 45 minutes. It was, he was fun to talk to. But I ended up messaging him on Facebook, like, this is my situation. He's like, you got to change it up. Because I told him, exactly what happened. So I did. I changed it up, and he told me about the calling. He said, do short, Matt, do like 5 to 7 of those. Versus the long drawn out, because the long drawn out is more of a alerting type. I can't remember exactly what he said about it, but the short ones is like a hot doe ready to go. So that's what I did. As soon as I seen that deer, I did that, and he come right to me.
No kidding.
I don't know if it doesn't work every time. It worked that day though, and I'm very glad that it did. It was after work that day, Thursday, and it was after time change. I had like 26 minutes to hunt, so I just got out of my car. I was in my Camo. I just took off running to the back, and it's 350 yards from my house to where I was hunting. So I sprinted back there, got set up, breathing heavy, and he come out. I was like, oh, wow. Like I said, I knew it was a buck, and that kind of gave me, the time to calm down, okay, I could see this deer. Once he got closer, I knew he was big. Once he hopped our fence, or my neighbor's fence, once he hopped that fence, he was within 150 yards. I knew, that he was big, and I just don't look at the antlers. That's all.
Yep.
Yeah,
One
because
time.
don't look at the antlers. So, I just, and I wouldn't, I was even trying to look at him. I was just, looking at the ground. Just trying to, you know,
Yeah.
peripheral vision him into the, you know, because I didn't know what to do. I was like I didn't have very good height. Like I said, I was on a fence post with grass around me. You know, so and it didn't go over me. It was just enough, to break me up, and it worked. Like I said, he got behind that decoy, and I don't even know how far he was when he got behind the decoy. He was probably 80 yards. Yeah, I held it back forever. It felt like,
Oh gosh.
I mean, it was probably it was under a minute, I would say realistically, but it felt like 10 minutes.
It's a
So
long time.
he gets me on the decoy, and he's just walking right to it. It's kind of diagonal to me, and he just bypasses it and keeps going past it, but kind of angling towards me, and he stops. I'm on the lane where I mow. He just stops. I don't have time to get my rangefinder out. I just got to guess it. I guessed him at 30, and he was about 26. Still worked out.
Close enough.
It was a hard quartering two. I hit him. Luckily, I hit him right, not the brisket, but just before the shoulder, and clean pass through. He ran 200 yards, folded. So
Wow.
it worked out. It worked out. But yeah, that doe bleeding, I guess for anybody that likes to doe bleed, try the short 5 to 7 cadence, the shorter. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. I'm sure guys have talked about it before too. I'm sure it's not a new thing, but
Yeah.
that's definitely something that I've changed as far as bleeding. So it worked out that day. I'll tell you that's for sure.
Yeah, it's something
But
I'll have to try out this year. I
yeah,
um I find it interesting that you're a guy that hunts a lot after work
yeah,
because I'm a guy that does that too, so I can really relate to that. Um waiting all day waiting all day to get off work to make it to the stand for 26 minutes.
yeah. It makes for a
Um
long day of work.
and it seems like always though, not always, but it seems like a lot of the times those 26-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute, 1 hour hunts,
Yeah,
sometimes they always seem like they're the best hunts. It's always like when you have all the time in the world on the weekend, it seems like it's dead in the woods. But
yeah,
like when you're running out there, you forget half your stuff in the truck. It seems like that's always the night that the deer want to be active.
yeah,
I kind of wonder if, when it comes to public, if like I was talking earlier, if that has a lot to do with, pressure. A lot of guys aren't gonna run out there after work for a half hour. They don't want to mess with it.
right.
They're not as hardcore.
Yeah, I like
So
to look at it that way too.
yeah,
Throw a wrench in the deer's pattern, definitely. I mean,
yeah.
they don't, they're not expecting that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, especially yeah, and especially early season when I have at least an hour and a half. I'm gonna be out there, and when the time changes, I'll just hunt behind the house because I don't have time to get to public usually.
Yeah.
I have public north of me. Um, I mean the check-in station's not even 5 minutes away, and the other one is about 15, 20, depending how late I am. But so yeah, I'll just hunt behind the house, and we when we moved in 2017, I didn't really think, oh yeah, nice field, but there's no woods here. Like I said, there's no woods, but on the property on the other side of the fence, there's a nice little island that's where they hang out in.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily hang out there all year. Does will, but the bucks just hit that, move on, hit that. It'll kind of be like a little pit stop for them. So when the buck in 2020, it was exactly a week before I shot him. He was a mile away, straight east of my house. A guy got him on trail camera, and that same year in the summertime, he was about close to 4 miles southeast of here, or
Wow.
southwest rather, southwest. Yeah, he was summering about 4 miles away. So
Wow.
yeah, it was. I was because I got a couple pictures when I killed the deer. He was. I got a picture of him. Like I said, when we moved in, I didn't have high hopes. I didn't know what to expect. I should say, not high hopes, but whatever. But when I put my trail camera out, I didn't get this buck on camera until it would have been the 2018 season, the end of the. So January 2019 is the first time I got a picture of him, and he was a good looking buck, but he was nothing like this. He had the split brows and just a nice, frame 8, other than the split brows, but he blew up after that. It was unreal. It was unreal.
You probably broke some people's hearts when you shot that deer because they had it on trail camera and been
Yeah,
watching it.
yeah. And there's not to get too far distracted, but there's a new one in the area.
Oh yeah,
Holy cow! Yeah,
bigger than that one, huh?
I mean, he's a mainframe, but he's definitely he's a monster. I mean, it's ridiculous. And the thing is, not a lot of people hunt around me. There's this one family that owns a lot around me that they just don't allow hunting, and they don't hunt themselves, So that it helps, but it doesn't,
Sanctuary.
Exactly. That's what we call the island. That's exactly what we call it. Yep. It's same with the turkeys, everything. The turkeys will not cross my fence. I don't, a hen will every once in a while, but the toms will not. But I feel like that fence could be a deterrent for deer.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I've had hunts with my wife that get out there and hit the grunt call, and 5 minutes later, here comes a buck, or whatever.
You might need to go out there with a old steel chainsaw or something, make something fall on that fence. I don't know.
Yeah, if I didn't have a good relationship with that guy that he calls himself the land manager. So he kind of takes, it's older women that own it, and he kind of takes care of it. He says he hunts, but I don't know. I've never seen him out there hunting, but he knows about it, every deer that's out there. I'll tell you that. He's when I had to call him because this deer ran onto his property. I had to call him, and it's late at night, and he had told me before that he's got to be home with his wife, at night, making sure she's all right. I don't know the whole situation, whatever, but I'm like, hey, sorry to bug you. I've bugged him in the past, and where to no avail as far as as far as hitting deer. Me and my wife were hitting deer, and they ran over there. We couldn't find them, whatever. So this time I'm like, I will give you, everything I got. I was like, I know this is a big deer, because when like they said, the nervousness hit as soon as I hit that release and stood up. That nervousness, my knees just went, numb. I was, I'm like, please God, let this deer fall, And he did. He felt once he felt, like I said, about 250 yards away, he fell. And he's a big old buck. He got right back up. He got back up and stood there.
Oh man!
And I'm like, I'm in disbelief. Like, oh no, like what? I didn't hit him good enough. Everything's just rolling through my mind, and he fell back over. And that was it. I was like, oh. So I told the landowner, I was like, this is a for sure thing. Or the land manager, I said, this is a for sure thing. Like, I promise you, he's dead. So I was like, you drive out here, I could show you, right where he's at. And I was so flustered. So, it was just rightfully, so worked up.
Yeah.
And, so he came out, and he's like, oh yeah, I've seen this buck, just kind of like, oh, you shot, but I'd never seen that guy hunt. And
yeah, seeing them and killing them's a totally different thing.
Oh yeah. So, but yeah, this one that's been around lately, everybody knows about him. So I don't know if you got a local gas station that, the old timers hang out at. In the area. I got one over here just right by my house, and pop in there every once in a while and just kind of, stand by the snack aisle and just kind of listen to what they're saying. It's, off the wall. But everybody knows about this buck. And I hope I can make it happen. It was actually, I think it was 8 or 9 days before I ended up killing this buck in 2020. I missed this other buck. And about 50 yards away, I shot right underneath him. But everything happens for a reason. So, it's right, right place, right time. I don't know. I don't really believe in, I don't know if I believe in luck, because you got to be out there.
Yeah.
If you're out there, you're, luck. I believe luck is one running through your front door and saying, here I am. Well, you're at your house. I don't really necessarily believe in luck. If you're putting in the work, you're out there, right place, right time. I don't know if that correlates with luck, but
yeah,
I don't see it that way. But
right place, right time, definitely. But there's people that right place, right time, maybe first time, but
Yeah.
most of us out there are,
Yeah.
grinding to make it happen.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as like a story with this buck, I had one show camera picture of him, and I had several, different bucks that, this is once we moved in this house is when I really started cracking down on my um discipline towards bucks, because I would go out and just shoot, a decent public land, 6, 8 point or whatever. But this, when we moved in here is when I really started cracking down, and you know, so I held off for once I shot that buck on public in 2018. I was like, that was a stepping stone. 3.5-year old 10 point. I said, that's definitely good. We're getting there. I just wanted one nice buck. Just you see it all over the place. Facebook just it'll ruin people. I mean, that Hoosier Outdoor, I believe it was, not to give shout outs or anything, but they, or Bucks of Indiana, that sort of thing, that'll ruin a person. Just seeing all those big deer. I mean, Indiana does produce. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. I mean, it's a sleeper state for sure.
There's no deer here, I promise. There's no deer here, anybody. Yeah, it is. I've talked about that too before. It's like Illinois, Kentucky, Ohio. It's like why did none of you guys want to come to Indiana?
Yeah.
But to each their own. Stay out. I'd rather have it to myself anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, usually I find myself not being by anybody here, especially lately. I guess that's a big thing too. If I was going to get dropped, like you go back to your getting dropped off,
Mhm.
nobody else in that parking lot is a big thing.
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, a lot of guys, you got to get way off the road. Well, yeah, absolutely, you got to get way off the road. But this past season, like I said, 250 yards, everybody bypasses that area. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You just gotta, and it took me a few days to realize that what was going on, but it works out. You just gotta be diligent, persistent. Kind of have an open mind, especially early season. You gotta have an open mind. Go just try
Open
to find.
mind and willing to try stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
So I want to jump in a little bit here towards the end about emotions and staying positive, kind of in the field when the emotions kind of roll, and you've been hunting for 70 days straight and haven't seen a deer, or whatever the case might be. um I know, like, a lot of non-hunters don't understand that there's a lot of emotions that come along with deer hunting, and I'm sure other hunting too,
yeah.
big game mostly, probably. Um, but do you find yourself being one of the people that experiences those emotions a lot? And do you feel like it's kind of changed over the years, maybe from when you were a kid to now? Do you feel less emotional now than you used to, about the same, or maybe more?
It's definitely more. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely every year that comes. It's I can't get rid of the disease.
Yeah.
It's the emotions definitely vary from a miss to a bad hit to not seeing anything. It all varies, but keeping an open mind and knowing that there's going to be another hunt. Just knowing if you put a bad hit on a deer and you do everything that you can to try and find that deer and it doesn't work. I've had it before where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to hunt for 2 weeks. Well, that doesn't happen. 2 or 3 days later, I'm back out there.
Yeah.
Or if it's not the next day. But I've had a couple, like last year. I had a situation where I'm not going to hunt. And I ended up holding off for like 4 or 5 days, which
Yeah.
you know,
You're like a fiend when it
yeah,
comes to that.
yeah. I mean, my wife, she's used to it now, but I know it's gotta ruffle her feathers a little bit that hunting is my, it's there, it's my top. It's I can't help it.
Yeah.
I know when every season's gonna start. I know what I got to do to be prepared. It's what I live for. It's if I didn't if I can make a living off hunting, just by being out there, if I could get paid to just be out in the woods, oh man, that'd be the dream, you know. But there's definitely emotions, and there's definitely, you gotta work through it. You got to figure out a way to get, because if you're just gonna give in, then hunting's not for you. If you're just gonna give up, then it's not for you. So
Now I know a lot of guys are into watching deer for years on end, and I know you said you play around with trail cameras a little bit.
yeah,
You kind of got that deer on camera that you're going to try to kill. Um, I feel like people often say once they finally connect and kill that deer, it's almost like they're emotionally attached to it. It's almost like it's almost like they've killed their dog or their firstborn child or something because they've
yeah,
become so connected. It's almost like they're in a relationship with the deer, in
yeah.
a
Or
sense.
like they raised it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah,
Um, have you ever experienced anything like that?
I have, and not that I've actually killed a deer like this one that I missed that year or that few days before. I ended up taking that one in 2020. Like I'm after this deer. I've had pictures of this from when he was a 2.5-year-old. And he's just been steady, getting big. And if like it's this last year, he just blew up. I mean, he is something. I don't know if I could show you a picture afterwards or whatever, but
Yeah.
man, oh man, like it's unreal. I mean, and he's a mainframe 10. I think he's a 10. I mean, what I could tell from pictures. I mean, he's just a giant. It was funny after season sometime in February. Deer were herded up real good down the road, and there's I stopped counting like 63 deer. It was just unreal. Um, like I said, nobody hunts around here. There needs to be some, needs to be some deer taken out around me. So, but anyway, I pull up to this field. I know there's going to be deer in. I got my binoculars just looking, and there's one deer looking at the road, and I guarantee you it was him. I mean, it was the closest one of the closer ones to the road. And you could clearly tell his ears were separated.
Yeah.
No, he had dropped his antlers, but just a massive body. Like I was like, holy cow! I was talking to myself. It's funny. That's how into it. I'm talking to myself like that's him. I'm like that's him. Like holy cow! You know, he ain't even got his antlers on him like that. Oh, that's him. but but yeah, that deer. Yeah, and I'm not big on naming deer. As far as
Yeah.
I'm not big on. He doesn't have a name. He's just that deer. That one.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe his name's that deer.
Yeah. the
How do
one.
you think you're gonna feel if you do end up shooting him? Do you
Oh,
think you'll be tore up about it or
it'll be so surreal. I mean, I hope. I mean, he's given me shots. He's given me shots. But except for this last year, I did not see him. So, but yeah, it would definitely be I don't know, because it's gonna be like, what next?
yeah.
Once you finally get that, it seems like if he's alive, alive and running, and you know, I don't know. It's definitely a weird situation, but hopefully that comes to where I can hold him.
Hopefully come October, you'll be sending me a picture of him
Yeah, that would
with
be sweet.
with
That
your
would be
hands
sweet.
around his rack. Yeah, I would love to see that. So, can you kind of tell everybody? Well, first, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on. I know we had some scheduling issues. I um, had to move you around once, and then my dumbass scheduled you uh, on my wife's birthday, so I had to go around and change that. So I do appreciate you working with me on that because I wanted to get you on here.
Oh, not
Um,
a problem. Not a
but could you
problem.
kind of tell everybody where to find you on social media? Maybe we got people that live around you, maybe want to connect with you to hunt.
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely. I'm definitely open to anything. Just talking, or want to get out. And I'm not. I don't have many. I don't feel like I'm have much advice, but I will share anything that anybody wants to know. But best place to find me right now is either Go Wild or Instagram. And my Instagram is Brandon _Ludlow. If you want to find me there. I do have a YouTube channel that it's mainly just videos, short videos of birds that I might see, geese. I do got a couple turkey hunting videos. I haven't got into the deer hunting videoing yet. I just as far as packing light, I guess that's one of the things that I just haven't
Yeah.
haven't done yet. And buddies are like, "Oh, I'll go," and then but it just comes down to, okay, I'm gonna go then. Can you go? No. Okay, well, I'm going. So
Yeah.
yeah, I Backroad Outdoors on YouTube. If you want to check that out, I got a couple videos from last year. My just my luck. If you knew me, my luck is very peculiar. So if you want to see my wife's turkey hunt from last year, it's definitely interesting. We had some gun issues, and she ended up taking the bird. So it was
Cool.
it was interesting. But
Yeah,
no,
I'll have to get on there and check it out. I haven't had a chance to scroll your YouTube channel yet, but I'm intrigued now.
y'all, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
And then mine's on there from last year too. It's mainly me calling to the bird and him finally flying the ditch. But yeah, turkey season's coming, and that's all I can think about. Like I said, work is definitely getting in the way of hunting in my
Yeah.
life.
Putting a hinder on that. Usually does.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
seen the other day because that's usually about all I watch on for TV is YouTube. I'll go through YouTube videos, and
Hmm.
anymore on the radio it's all podcasts. So, but anyway, on the YouTube, I seen there's a guy. It's called Part Timers, and it says I don't know if you're familiar with them. It's the first I've seen of them.
I feel like I've heard this before.
Yeah, it says part timers, overworked, underhunted, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
perfect.
somebody just told me about that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like that. Yeah, I need to. Why didn't I think of that? But that describes it perfectly. I mean, but
Yeah, man.
no, it's
Just gotta keep grinding at it, and and go whenever you can, and you gotta make the best out of the time you got, and
yeah.
keep moving around for those deer. If you keep sitting in one spot, you ain't gonna kill them. That's what I've
No,
learned.
that's I don't know. Did I tell you what he scored?
No.
So he grossed 212 and 7/8. Yeah, I got I don't know. It's not official. I believe I got the which I don't really care, but it's neat. I don't it's not what I go for, but
Yeah.
it's I believe it's the biggest in the county with a bow.
No
So
kidding.
that's kind of definitely something to take pride in, But this other buck is gonna be I don't know.
He's gonna beat him.
I I believe I mean if he as long as he's not on the decline because he should be 6 or 7 this coming year. I believe 7, in which this year was 6 or 7. I asked the taxidermist to keep the jaw, and I guess, that
Forgot.
yeah, that ship sailed. So
Yeah.
I didn't get official age on him, but we'll see.
That's a
We'll
buck
see.
to be proud of, that's for sure.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I still
Yeah.
get shook every time I tell a story. My knees get weak.
Cool, man. Well, I'll let you get out of here. And again, I appreciate you taking the time and working with me. And
No, I appreciate you letting me get on my first podcast. It was awesome.
yeah, man, you did great. All
Well, have a
right,
good
man.
time.
I'll catch up with you.
All righty.
All
Sounds good.
right, we'll see you.
Have a good night.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Hunt the Wild podcast. If you enjoyed the show and it's brought you some sort of value, I'd love if you could give me a rating and a review. Just a few seconds of your time can help me better understand the type of content you all enjoy, and it would mean the world to me to hear from all of you.